One of the questions that we get asked quite often is, how much does a boiler cost? Well, that comes down to the installation, the type of property you've got, the make of the boiler manufacturer's costs, depends what extras you've got for the boiler. So it really depends on a lot of different factors. So to start with, to simplify this a little bit, I'll explain. You get a straightforward combi swap. That means that your current boiler will be a condensing boiler because all new boilers are condensing boilers. So it will already have a condensate waste pipe in place. Now, one thing I will point out here is that sometimes if it's a condensing boiler that was fitted a good while back, the regulations have changed for condensate disposal, which means the waste pipe coming away from the boiler actually needs to be of a certain diameter, and any external part needs to be insulated now. And it's not just the standard insulation that you put on it. It has to be class O, which is the black insulation, which doesn't soak up water and freeze in the wintertime. So there's that. It also has to be the right size. So it has to be at least 32 mil if it's run externally or in cold places. Now, if that needs changed, then that's obviously going to affect price because that's a bit more work to do. It'll take longer. It'll require more materials. So there's that. The other things that can affect this type of installation, this straightforward swap, is if you go for a different boiler, then the pipework might need altered. And depending on the installer, they might cut the pipes down low and put new pieces of pipe up to make it new and make sure everything is new so that you don't have any problems. And if there's valves, they might change the valves too, which will add on costs. There's also other things to take into consideration. What type of controls are you fitting? Are you fitting bog standard controls that you get that the manufacturer makes, which can be easily installed? Or are you wanting something more particular, like a known brand, another known brand that do controls, such as Honeywell or Drayton or Danfoss? The costs are all different. Or do you want something that you can control from your phone, your smartphone, a Hive or a Nest, or maybe the boiler manufacturer's smart control? These will have different installation costs too, because you might need to run new wiring from the boiler to a certain place in the house, or maybe there's wiring there already, so that has an effect on price. Also, another thing to consider is how clean is your system? How big is your system? If it's a small system and it's dirty, it might take a day to flush. If it's a big system, it might take a day and a half, 2 days to flush properly. If it's a really dirty system, if it's more than 10 radiators, it could well take longer than a day if it's done properly. It just depends on your system. Now that's down to the engineer checking for you to see what you need, and what's actually needed for your system. And you've got to trust your engineer to show you this so that you make the right decisions. So that's a straightforward combi swap. And those different options that you can get go for all different boiler changes too. But then you've got a system change, which is pretty straightforward change, and will probably take less time than a combi swap because there's less pipework, less things to check. But it also depends if there's other valves being changed in the system too. Another consideration is the flue. Is the flue going out through the wall? Is it straight out? Or does it go up through the roof? If it goes up through the roof, chances are it might take a little longer. You might need a roofer, depending on what's required. If a slate piece is needed, maybe your plumber will do that. So a lot of things to consider. Also, you get an old back boiler or a regular conventional system, conversion to a combi boiler or to a system boiler, and there's a lot more work involved in this type of installation. So it is a good bit more expensive. So all these variables come into consideration. And if it is a back boiler to combi swap or a back boiler to system swap, is your engineer boarding up the fireplace? What are you doing with your fireplace? That's another thing to consider. Is it getting boarded back up? Are they going to take the flue liner out of your chimney? Are they going to put a chimney cap on for you? If they are, then that's going to add that costs are going to add up. So it's something to consider. All these little bits. And I believe that if you get your engineer to do all of those things, it's going to be more cost effective because they'll have contacts that do that for them at set prices. And also, all the other things that I've mentioned, such as controls, magnetic filter. I've not mentioned the magnetic filter. If you're getting a magnetic filter, most manufacturers now state that you must fit a magnetic filter for the boiler warranty to be valid because it collects magnetite, rust particles in your system, and stops them from going into crucial components inside the boiler and causing problems with them. So they're well worth the investment. So all of these things to consider when you're getting a new boiler. The best thing you can do is look for an engineer or a business that will go through this with you and help you make the right decision, because it's you that's got to make the right decision. So ask your engineer the questions, ask the business the questions. What are they including? Are they including all of these things? Find out and make an informed decision. I hope this video has been helpful for you for choosing your new boiler.